Hello students, I welcome you all. Presently we are dealing with Girish Karnad's play Tughlaq. So far we completed 5 scenes from the play, and of course in continuity I would like to continue with scene number 6. But one thing you need to remember before I deal with this scene, this is going to be a very crucial scene as far as the development of the play is concerned. Probably you might have heard about the term climax. If you go through the plays of William Shakespeare, you will come across a very crucial development in the course of the play, which is going to decide the end of the play. So what I personally feel when I was going through the entire play, I realized that this sixth scene or scene number 6 is going to be a very crucial one, and it can be treated as a climax as far as this play is concerned. Actually, the full length plays are divided into acts, but since this is a modern play written by Girish Karnad, you don't find any acts here. Moreover, this play is divided into different scenes, and presently we are going through scene number 6. As soon as the curtain rises, we find a couple of characters there in a room in the palace of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. We find 3 characters there right in the beginning of the scene: Sultan Muhammad, Najib, and Bernie. Sometimes this character Bernie is also pronounced as Barani by some people. But anyway, so we come across these 3 characters. Sultan seems to be very anxious and restless. He is trying to pace up and down because of that anxiety and restlessness. Then the doorkeeper announces the arrival of the Amirs along with Shihabuddin for the Darbar-e-Khas. Now you will find a kind of connectivity with the scene 5. In the scene 5, we came to know that Ratan Singh and others were trying to manipulate the assassination of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the murder of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and they have planned to have a meeting with Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and intentionally all these Amirs, Sayyids will prolong the meeting till the afternoon prayer, and as soon as the call for the prayer will be given, all the Amirs will suddenly attack the armless Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So just keep all these things in mind before you proceed with scene number 6. Now you see here, the doorkeeper has already announced the arrival of the Amirs along with Shihabuddin for the Darbar-e-Khas. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, with a great warmth, welcomes all of them for the Darbar-e-Khas, and makes a humble request that he has got only 2 points to discuss in the meeting, and he is not of the opinion to get late for the afternoon prayer. Earlier also I discussed about it. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the follower of Islam, very particular about performing prayers every day. And here also he has made the same proclamation that he is not going to compromise with the time of the prayer, and meeting should come to an end at the earliest, well in advance before the commencement of the afternoon prayer. Muhammad bin Tughlaq says, if at all they have anything to say, they can frankly and freely discuss with him, but they are expected to be time bound. When they say that they have nothing to say, anything particular, then Muhammad bin Tughlaq informs all the Amirs that the holy man Ghiyasuddin Abbasid has already accepted his invitation, and Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, who is from the generation of the Khalifa, is going to visit the capital city. As I said, Ghiyasuddin Abbasid is a member of the hallowed family of the Abbasid Caliphs. As soon as the Amirs and the Sayyids came to know about, it was definitely a good news for them all. And when complimented by Shihabuddin for his wisdom, Muhammad bin Tughlaq firmly asks him if he thinks that he has invited Abbasid to placate the stupid priests. In fact, he was trying to invite him in order to show how faithful and modest he is towards Islam. As soon as the declaration was made by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there were different opinions coming from these Amirs and Sayyids. With a little humility in his tone, he tells that the Amirs, since the death of Islamuddin, he has been seriously thinking that he has really the right to put on the royal robes and to be called a king. This statement indicates that Muhammad bin Tughlaq is feeling guilty of something. He felt that he has committed some sin, sin, and he wanted to repent for that. Purification is possible only when the holy man like Ghiyasuddin Abbasid visits the capital and purify the region. So in the view of all that, he was trying to put in his own efforts in this direction. Actually, he wants to know from all the Amirs what they would like to him to do. Because there is always a kind of confrontation between the Sultan and others. And that confrontation is not really good for the sake of the state. Muhammad bin Tughlaq requests them, whatever good or bad they want to talk about him, they should tell him frankly and openly. Instead of keeping the things in mind, it would be better if they could break the silence. So after listening to Muhammad bin Tughlaq, all the Amirs were totally baffled and confused. There was a complete silence for some time. None of them even had a single word. But somebody broke the silence and happened to say that the visit of Ghiyasuddin Abbasid will wash away the sins of Delhi. Probably this monopolic attitude of Muhammad bin Tughlaq has really made the whole of the political scenario dirty. So as soon as Muhammad bin Tughlaq noticed the whispering of an Amir, immediately he retorts that by the time Ghiyasuddin Abbasid arise, they will be in Daulatabad. Now you see here, directly or indirectly, Muhammad bin Tughlaq is making another announcement that he is going to shift his capital city from Delhi to Daulatabad with an immediate effect. Maybe in another few days or so, he wanted the whole city, that is Delhi, to be vacated and they should be moving towards Daulatabad. Because Muhammad bin Tughlaq happens to mention here that Ghiyasuddin Abbasid is not going to visit Delhi. He is going to visit Daulatabad, the new capital city. So that was the another reason for the confusion among the Amirs. They were unable to decide what to do and how. Immediately there was another announcement made by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he proclaimed that there will be copper currency in the state, and the copper currency will have the similar value as that of the silver dinars. See how ridiculous the idea was. How can you compare the value of a silver dinar having the equivalence there with the copper currency? Some of the Amirs were trying to protest this idea, but the Sultan said that China has been using paper currency and the people of China already accepted it. So there should not be any problem with his own subject, those who are the part and parcel of Delhi Sultanate. So no one should object this. When he was asked by Shihabuddin why he has decided so, so Muhammad bin Tughlaq replied that empire cannot flourish in Delhi as its capital, number one. He is facing the financial crisis with the silver dinar. That's why he is going to introduce copper currency. And Daulatabad, since it is the center of the entire empire, would be the safest place as the capital, and we would be more safe from the attacks of the foreigners. So only these 2 to 3 justifications were given by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and consequently he was trying to impose whatever ideas he has got in his mind in order to take certain steps in this direction. But immediately what happened? Among the Amirs, one of the Amirs whispered that Tughlaq has gone mad. And unfortunately, it was overheard by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he asks him to say what he has to say openly without fears. I quote, Muhammad bin Tughlaq says, "Because people are afraid, will you mistrust me too? Laugh at me if you like, criticize me, but please don't distrust me. I can order you all to obey me, but tell me, how do I gain your full trust? I can only beg for it." He is literally pleading now. I have hopes of building a new future for India, and I need your support for that. If you don't understand me and ask me to explain myself, I'll do it. If you don't understand my explanations, bear with me in patience until I can show you the results. But please don't let me down. I beg you. I shall kneel before you if you wish, but please don't let go of my hand. See, here you can understand a few more things about the character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq is such a diplomatic person who knows how to get the task done by hook or crook. So as you know, or you might have heard about Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. This is a typical, a bunch of words that we use in Marathi while talking about some of the very typical personalities like Muhammad bin Tughlaq. I think Tughlaq knows everything. And moreover, he follows that. First of all, he requests. Then he commands. Then he compels. Then he manipulates. And if at all, even though the people don't follow him, he, like a barbarian, kills them. So this is how is the character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And Amirs also realize the fact. Amirs recoil, and Shihabuddin is embarrassed and tells the king that he must not request but command. As you know that Shihabuddin has been one of the admirers of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and a very close associate of Tughlaq also. When the Sultan was begging and he was simply requesting the Amirs to follow him and to trust him, Shihabuddin did not like it. He was literally embarrassed to see the situation. and requested Muhammad bin Tughlaq not to beg. Don't request us, you command us. And on listening to the Amirs, he goes to the throne, picks up the Quran, and wants them to take an oath of loyalty on the Quran. See, this is another diplomacy of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He might have understood that something is going wrong against him. These Amirs are the rebels. They are going to kill him. So he might have realized the fact from his own sources. And that's the reason he moves towards the throne, picks up the copy of the Holy Quran, approaches all these Amirs and Sayyids, asking them to take an oath of loyalty on the Quran, and he is enraged actually. In fact, he got very angry. But anyhow, Muhammad bin Tughlaq controls himself when Shihabuddin tells him that Muhammad is asking them to take the oath on the Quran, shows that he distrusts them. See, this comment by Shihabuddin is really adding on the fire to the situation. In the meanwhile, muezzins call for the prayer, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his followers know that that was the time for afternoon prayer. The Sultan decides to pray there itself and ask all the Amirs to join with him for the prayer. As you know, during the prayer time, the followers of Islam are not supposed to have any weapon with them. Of course, Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his followers kept their weapons aside and they started performing the prayer. In the meantime, they realized that there is some commotion outside. Shihabuddin and the Amirs draw out their daggers and they were about to attack Muhammad bin Tughlaq because they wanted to murder Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Instantly, around 20 Hindu soldiers, those who were hidden behind the curtains, dragged the Amirs away but leave behind Shihabuddin right in front of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Now, there was a bloodshed. Many of the rebels, that is, many of the Amirs were killed by the special force of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Shihabuddin is standing in front of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Immediately after the prayer, Muhammad tells Shihab that he was ready to meet the situation because he was forewarned by Ratan Singh. Muhammad bin Tughlaq also shows the letter of Ratan Singh to Shihab and asked him why he had revolted against him. Muhammad bin Tughlaq got very much angry with Shihabuddin. Tughlaq takes out his dagger and continuously stabs Shihabuddin for a many number of times. Then, almost frenzied, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq continues to stab him till death. In fact, Shihabuddin was no more, but even though Muhammad bin Tughlaq continued to stab him again and again. Now I quote Bernie's dialogue. Bernie screams and says, "Your Majesty, he is dead." Muhammad, in great anguish, wants to know if all those he trusts are doomed to go down in history as traitors. He is trembling all over and is staring at the body laid on a mat. He orders that every army involved in this revolt should be caught and beheaded, their bodies be stuffed with straw and hanged in the palace yard for a week for the people to see. See now. This was a dialogue read by or pronounced by Bernie. He says, "Your Majesty, he is dead. Why are you continuously stabbing him again and again? In fact, he is no more now." As you know, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was in a great anguish. He wanted to get rid of everybody, those who were among the rebels or the part and parcel of the rebel. And he ordered that everybody who came in this troop, those who wanted to kill me or attack me, none of them should be left alive. So quickly get rid of them and hang their dead bodies outside there in the palace yard, and let the people see that if at all somebody is a traitor, what is going to happen with them. Najib, however, advises him to be calm and do something about Shihab's father. Shihabuddin's father is a very powerful man in the state, and Muhammad regained himself, controlled himself, and realized the importance of the situation, and quickly he thought of another option. He thought for a moment or two. He also realized that if at all Shihabuddin's father came to know that Shihab has been killed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq himself, there will be another rebel, because since he is a very powerful man, many number of people will go against him. Then his diplomacy can be observed here very minutely. Immediately, Muhammad bin Tughlaq makes an announcement that don't declare Shihabuddin as a traitor. Mention that and pronounce that even in the entire Sultanate, that a group of Amirs, those who were the traitors, were trying to murder Muhammad bin Tughlaq, that is the Sultan. And in order to save the life of Sultan, Shihabuddin got killed. This is the diplomacy of Tughlaq. So he wanted this declaration to be done. But Najib objects the plan, and he says that so many Hindu soldiers, they have seen it, they were practically involved in the action, and the real message or the real developments over here near the throne or inside the court will automatically go out into the public, and the public or the people or the subject of the state may revolt. Now you see the another order or the commandment given by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Next command given by Muhammad bin Tughlaq was that all the people of Delhi should vacate the city with immediate effect and leave for Daulatabad. Not a soul be left behind, not a light be seen in the window. What does it mean? If you happen to read out this particular dialogue uttered by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, you will realize that he wanted all the people of Delhi to vacate the place and immediately move towards Daulatabad, because he did not want to see Delhi as the capital. He wanted to see Daulatabad as the capital. Then he tells the distressed Burning that he had wanted every act in his kingdom to become a prayer. Every prayer to become a further step in knowledge. Every step to lead them nearer to God. But their prayers too were ridden with disease and must be exiled, he says. He says, I continue, Najib, I want Delhi vacated immediately. Every living soul in Delhi will leave for Daulatabad within a fortnight. I was too soft. I can see that now. They will only understand the whip. Everyone must leave. Not a light should be seen in the windows of Delhi. Not a wisp of smoke should rise from its chimneys. Nothing but an empty graveyard of Delhi will satisfy me now. However, he modifies his order at the insistence of Najib. People will pray again, but after the arrival of Ghiyasuddin Abbasid. Now you see, one more whimsical order passed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He suspended prayers from the state, and he said that the people will not pray at all. No public prayer will be conducted. The people will pray only after the arrival of Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the holy man. And this is how is the development of the play in this particular scene. Muhammad stands staring at the dead body of Shihabuddin towards the end of the scene. He does not like it to be covered with the silken cloth that the Barani puts it on the body. He casts the cloth aside and wants the people to see the wounds on the body of Shihabuddin. But unwillingly, he made that declaration that Shihabuddin is a martyr, because in order to save the life of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he fought against the traitor Amirs and saved the life of the Sultan. And this is the end of scene number 6. And I believe that you can also make out very easily that this scene is going to be a climax of this particular play. So thank you very much for patient listening. In the next class, I will talk about scene number 7.